As many Canadians are feeling the effects of the carbon tax on their finances, the Conservative Party has been saying, let's axe the tax, while Liberals are now saying it just needs a rebrand. So the carbon tax is set to go up as of April 1st. Nick Leaf saying on Twitter, carbon taxes, Justin Trudeau's carbon tax, is set to go up on April 1st. We will see gasoline carbon taxes rise to 17 cents per liter. Justin Trudeau says he doesn't care about how much Canadians are struggling. Carbon taxes will keep going higher until we stop using gasoline and buy an electric car. That's the goal here. Get people into electric cars, as if they don't produce electricity with carbon. It's crazy. You can't make this stuff up. But in lieu of all this, the Liberals are saying it's not really the carbon tax. It's just how people feel about the carbon tax. Amid confusion from Canadians, Justin Trudeau's government is considering a rebrand of carbon pricing. You really can't make this stuff up. It is just crazy. The federal government is considering a rebrand of the federal program for its carbon pricing system in an attempt to tackle what it calls confusion and misconception about the scheme. And don't for a second think that this is not a scheme. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Liberals have admitted that they're losing the communication battle over carbon pricing in the face of campaign from Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives to undermine the government's flagship climate policy. If you want to read the rest of this, you can pay a price, or you can just go to another news agency, because they're all just reporting on what they've been saying, because it's really this ludicrous. Rebel News is saying, according to the Toronto Star, the Liberal Party of Canada is seeking more effective ways of marketing its carbon tax in light of what it deems confusion and misconceptions about it. The so-called price on pollution has been a point of contention in recent years, with the Conservatives pointing to the tax as one reason for the increased food and costs and fuel costs across the country. I mean, it's really a no-brainer. At what point, when they put a tax on making food, essentially all farmers are going to use these fuels in order to make food, and then you raise the price on the fuel that it takes to bring that food to you, do you think that the prices are not going to go up? If it costs more money to produce the stuff, and these guys have tiny margins, of course it ends up with higher food prices. They're not going to just take it out of their pocket and give it to everybody. Many Canadians appear not to be convinced by the Trudeau Liberals' claims. As reported by the Toronto Star, polling from Abacus data shows that in Ontario, a primarily Liberal province, 45% of respondents thought the carbon tax was a bad policy, while only 37% thought it was a good policy. I can't believe that many people thought it was a good policy. It really goes to show how crazy this country has become. Furthermore, 49% of respondents in Atlantic provinces, where they're actually feeling the effects of this a little bit more, thought it was a bad policy, while just 31% believed it was a good policy, according to the polling. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has made axing the carbon tax one of his primary focuses of his campaign. And this is, of course, if you want to get somewhere in politics, go against the largely unpopular ideas that are coming out of the current paradigm, the current people in government. Now, Leslyn Lewis took to Twitter to say a carbon tax rebrand is an insult to our common sense. Liberals think it will make Canadians feel better about being taxed into poverty. Carbon tax, by another name, is still a tax that causes everything to be more expensive and fails to protect the environment. This really, at the end of the day, makes you think, how much is this really affecting? They were citing forest fires and all this stuff. Where's the money from the carbon tax going? Is it going into any of these things? No, it's largely just an exorbitant tax to change your behavior. And we're going to get into how that behavior hasn't been changing for our ruling elite in just a moment here. But Rex Glacier also saying apparently Trudeau lying about the wealth transfer tax, referring to it as a carbon tax that was going to change the climate by making everything too expensive so everyone would sit at home and not drive anywhere, isn't a great idea when people can't afford food or housing. Really, this is where we're at. Andrew Scheer adding to this one, saying Trudeau's problem, Canadians hate his punishing carbon tax. Trudeau's solution, change the name. Let's just call it something else. Carbon tax? What carbon tax? We're just going to call it something else. A rebrand of carbon pricing. No matter what you call it, it's still the same thing. Scott Moe putting it on there. Now, Scott Moe, famously, as the premier of Saskatchewan, has said that he stated that as of January 1st this year, he won't be enforcing the carbon tax on home heating if you have natural gas. It's not going to be on your bill if the federal government wants to collect this carbon tax in Saskatchewan. They're going to have to do it themselves. It's going to be a really tricky one for them. I don't think it's Canadians who are confused about the carbon tax, he says on Twitter. Now, this parody account, Justin Trudeau's Ego, love it. It's they're always putting some fun quips up there. The carbon tax is becoming so unpopular that my government is planning to rebrand it. That's why we're renaming it the Go F Yourself tax. Canadians love accuracy, and there's nothing more accurate than the fact that this tax is designed to screw you. Absolutely. And even Pierre Poilievre chiming in on this one. No matter how much lipstick the Liberals try to put on this very ugly carbon tax pig, it doesn't change the fact Trudeau's carbon tax is very costly, ugly, hungry pig. Acts the carbon tax, of course. Now, even reporters are asking Chrystia Freeland today on her point of view on this whole thing. Freeland was asked about the carbon tax. It's revenue neutral money, goes right back into the pockets of Canadians, she says. Here's the question here.
Jordan, CTV.
Hi, my question's for Minister Freeland. There's a report this morning from the Toronto Star talking about how your government potentially wants to rebrand the carbon tax. What does that mean, just changing the name? And how do you think that will protect a policy that's becoming increasingly unpopular among Canadians? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I think it's important to start with the reality, and that is that the price on pollution returns more money to 8 out of 10 Canadians, and lower income Canadians are in that 8 out of 10 category.
So is it a wealth distribution tax? I mean, that's if this is the whole point of it, is to take money from other people and then give it to other people. What they're not telling you, though, is that this is what's not in the calculation when it comes to all this stuff, is that it's actually rising the price of food. It's rising the price of everything across the board. The calculations they give is just how much fuel, specifically fuel, Canadians are consuming, but not what the prices increased in your food costs the average person. So even these people who are lower income that are getting money back, maybe they do get back more than they actually paid in the carbon tax on their fuel. They still doesn't cover what their cost is after the prices have gone up. They're largely more impoverished because of this. But that just makes it a wealth distribution tax, not a price on pollution. But what else does she have to say here?
This is a policy which is revenue neutral. The money goes right back into the pockets of Canadians. In Ontario, a family of 4 this year is going to be getting close to $1,000 back through the price on pollution. It's also the case that a lot of Canadians don't realize that the labels that financial institutions use, if people are getting the money through direct deposit, differ between financial institutions, and people can be mystified. I think that Canadians have the right to know what they're getting from the federal government, and certainly I think that in every single program, we need to be thoughtful about that and thoughtful about being sure that Canadians understand what's actually happening.
Okay, definitely didn't answer the question there, but that's Chrystia Freeland for you. What is the rebrand going to do? It's just going to try to make you feel better about paying taxes. Nobody feels better about paying taxes. Spoilers, sorry, but that's just the reality of the situation. Now, of course, is this changing people's behavior? Well, the question is, Justin Trudeau, how much fuel did he use on his recent vacation?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Minister back from his $80,000 vacation, which he got for free. He said, like most Canadians, friends welcomed him for that vacation. He took 2, not 1, but 2 private jets paid for by the taxpayer, burning 100 tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. He wants to tax the heat and the food of Canadians. Did he pay the full carbon tax on each of the 100 tons of emissions that he put into the atmosphere as part of his $80,000 vacation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the Conservative leader has simply no plan to address climate change in this country. No.
Okay, so boring answer. The answer, of course, is that the Conservatives don't have a plan for. Here's the thing. I'm going to have to just show them here, any liberals that are watching right now. Here's how you do this. This is a website. It's called Google. It's I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a pretty big website. It's been around for a while. And what you do is you type in something into the search field. Here, how about this one? Conservative climate plan. And I'll hit enter. And what do you know? The very, very top result is bing, the Conservatives' plan for climate. And it's been around for a while. It's been around since Aaron O'Toole. But I just keep hearing this point keep coming up over and over again. Now, they may have a new plan when there is an election, and Pierre Poilievre brings forward his election campaign strategy, which of course they want way ahead of time, because they were largely in recent times taking a lot of the rhetoric that Pierre Poilievre has been saying and actually trying to implement this. Of course, you know, housing and things like that. They're now addressing these things. 8 years later, they never addressed them until it's become a real large popular issue in Canada. But back to the carbon tax. How much are we paying on this? And is it how much? This is crazy to me. So this is Franco Terrazzano of the Taxpayers Federation, and he's talking about how much revenue they're actually going to get, not from the carbon tax alone, but just from the tax, the GST on the carbon tax. Not the GST on everything else, but just the GST on the carbon tax that's added after the fact.
Okay, folks, so the government taxes the fuel that you need to survive, and then they tax those taxes with the sales tax, okay? So the Parliamentary Budget Officer crunched the numbers just today, and the tax on the tax of the carbon tax, so the GST applied on the carbon tax, is costing taxpayers about $500 million this year, about 500 million smackers. By 2030, the GST on the carbon tax alone will cost taxpayers more than $1 billion annually, okay, folks? Tax on tax is costing Canadians big time, and that's just the tax on tax with the GST on the carbon tax. Of course,
I'll leave a link in the description down below. You can watch the whole video for yourself, but this is crazy to think that just paying a tax on top of a tax is going to create $1 billion worth of revenue. Where do you think that comes from? Is that just going to appear? Is this some sort of accounting anomaly that just creates money out of thin air? No, it's not. This is coming out of the pockets of Canadians' hard-earned money, and this is what's happening. And that is just the tax on the tax. That isn't the carbon tax itself. So it is very detrimental to the average person. So yeah, this is the reason for the rebrand. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.